29 1234 is my phone number. If you want to join in with this conversation, we'll be we'll squeeze some more guests on soon. But the phone lines, as you can imagine, this is one of the things that, like I say, Talk to Me Radio exists because it doesn't exist. Do you understand what I mean by that? This is how talk radio actually should be done, in the opinion of everyone who works here. And the reason that we have talk radio in this country is because, it allows us to react to news stories and events that we don't expect or see coming or really understand the impact of. And so I'm so pleased about these calls. Let's take some more of these calls. 020 38 29 1234 is the number. Anthony in the West Country, what are you going to tell us, sir? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hi, Nick.
Yeah, hello. What do you want to tell us?
I want to touch on the police, but I just want to quickly touch on what Raheem said, and I think you need to understand this, and all your listeners do as well. The old rules don't apply anymore. It's a completely new game. Everything that you went before is the past. The year starts zero from now, and it's what we do now is all that matters, and we can't be tied to our history or things that other people have done in the past. We have to create our own way if we are to get out of this terrible problem that we're in. So that's the first thing. So I think when you said...
Let me just address that. I mean, I absolutely hear what you're saying, and that's in the back of my mind that maybe we need to change the state of the nation and announce that we're in a state of war or something like that. Maybe that would be a way forward to help people understand that. But then at the same time, that is how you quickly lose your sense of right and wrong, isn't it, Anthony? They call it situational ethics. If you change someone's environment and you say everything's different now, that is the moment just before they do something wrong, isn't it?
But you're just using the old logic of the past. You haven't changed anything.
Yeah.
You're just using the old debate form that you used from the past. So you're not changing anything. You're using the same logic which has tied us, tied our hands, and we can't actually do anything about this. I don't really understand what's going on. I really don't get it. You've got people on Twitter. This was one thing that annoyed me yesterday. You've got guys on there and everyone on there that I know that are talking about candlelight vigils. This is not the way to do it. And then 8 o'clock at night, they're sat in front of the One Love Manchester concert, perpetuating all of this again. Don't they understand what they're doing? By watching this concert, all you're doing is making the candlelight vigils and the Come By Our songs long laster, and they will go on further and further. I just don't understand it. Muhammad said, "I will be victorious through terror." The Muslims now see this prophecy is coming true because of our weakness. They absolutely despise weakness, and the weaker we are, the stronger they will become. And how long, how often? I mean, the police have hijacked this. I'm disgusted by what's gone on. Within 2 hours, the police have completely hijacked this terror attack for their own gain. All I'm hearing about is the police need extra officers. It's everywhere, every 10 minutes on every channel. There's a retired copper coming out of the woodwork talking about armed cops. What happened to the victims? What happened about talking about Islam? What happened to everything that we need to talk about? Why are we only focusing now on the police, Nick? I don't get it.
Yeah, I hear you. I absolutely hear you. I mean, we've got some stuff on, perhaps on today's show about exactly that. But I think the reason why, Anthony, is because that is part of the story. I mean, Theresa May was cutting police numbers. That's one of the things that was kind of one of the things that she was famous for before she became Prime Minister. It does
20,000 more police would do absolutely nothing for the terror attack that went on 2 days ago. It will do nothing for the terror attack that's probably going to happen in the next couple of days. The one after that, the one after that, the one after that. It's absolutely pointless. The police and the politics have hijacked the deaths of these people. They're not even cold. And already people are using it for their personal gain. I've seen no one on TV, I've heard no one on radio, apart from this show, talking about the fundamentals of Islam. And you made an interesting point. Sorry to go on, Nick, but you said, yes, there's a problem with the political ideology within Islam, or parts of it. The whole part of Islam, every page that you open in the Quran, the Hadith, the Sirah, All of it. It is laced with political ideology. You cannot separate it. So if that's the case, then all Muslims are complicit. Pages in a book do not run over people and stab people. Muslims do.
Okay, all right. But then again, on the flip side, those pages in that book have to be interpreted by people, don't they? And so that's where the debate lies, as you know. I mean, I would say I'm probably one of the people that you're describing, Anthony, in the sense that I did watch that concert, and as I admitted before, I woke up the next day in a relatively good mood, and unsure whether or not I had the right headspace on, to be honest, to tackle this show, because I knew that there is a requirement for hardline solutions here, but I don't know.
Sorry, Nick, to interrupt, but when you start talking about, well, it's how you look at things, do we want to talk about how Muslims interpret things for the next 20, 30 years? Do we want to have that conversation while our children are being killed? Is that the conversation? Because there is no end to that conversation. If we're going to go down that route, that conversation will not end. Okay? Now, and it's not, there is no abrogation, there's nothing like that. Islam is very, very simple. All you need to do is read the life of Muhammad, watch what he done from the birth of Islam to the end of Islam. The whole story is there. Everything is there that we need to know. The path of Muhammad is the way the Muslims need and is what is drummed into them from an early age. So we don't need to dissect Islam. We don't need to contextualize it or do any of that. All we need to do is explain the life of Muhammad to the people of this country, and at that point we can start doing something about Islam. But if we start talking about this, how they interpret, how these guys interpret it, 30 years later we'll be here and we'll all be living under the Sharia. That you can be sure of.
Okay, Anthony in the West Country, thanks for the call. A lot of passion on the phones. I'm reserving my passion for the moment. I don't know what to, like I say, I'm just being honest with you. We're taking the calls and we're responding. 020 38 29 1234 is the number. 3,000 people engaged in plots in the UK. As many as 23,000 have appeared on the radar of counter-terror agencies. How do we respond to it? You give me your thoughts. 020 38 29 1234. Is the answer internment? Separate prisons, maybe? That's been advocated for years by our next contributor, Tommy Robinson. Delighted to say he joins us now. Former leader of the EDL, now making huge waves as a journalist. Tommy, first of all, I want to get your take on this. I've seen there's a YouTube video of yours where you're basically talking about either the establishment do something about this, or, from the sounds of it, paramilitary groups are going to start growing and people are going to take the law into their own hands. Did I read that wrong when I was watching you?
No, inevitably that is the outcome that we will face. That's inevitable. And I don't see how anyone can see it any other way. We saw the same in Northern Ireland. We should look to the history of Northern Ireland when the IRA were bombing. The UDA forms, paramilitaries on the British side. Now, what you have to understand is, I went 4 days ago, before this attack in London, I went and tracked down Abu Halima. Abu Halima is pictured with the man who done the massacre in one of the terrorists from London the other day. It was one of his best friends, yeah? So I went and tracked him down to see where they've housed him. I found him living 4 doors or 5 doors up from a primary school. He's on a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week watch. The police have now moved him again because I went to his house. His house is now boarded up. Yeah. Now, when I went to that house, these men, they're on a watch list because they're a threat to us. So if they're a threat to us, and Abu Halima was arrested, and they took his passport so he couldn't go and join ISIS. So we know he's on the verge of wanting to fight his jihad, and we've stopped him going to Syria to do it. These men then become like a ticking time bomb ready to explode. Yeah, that's what we've got walking around our country. Now, when this ticking time bomb explodes, who's he going to explode on? He's living 4 doors or 5 doors up from a primary school. Now, it doesn't matter if you're watching him 7 days a week. It's so easy for him. When I looked at the distance, I've just put the video up. It's gone on rebel.media. For him to grab a knife and run into that playground will take 10 seconds. Yeah, and you're housing them with us. Now, as a father, as an Englishman, I don't know how other people ain't seeing this, and that's not me threatening it. I'm warning of it, because people aren't going to sit by while these men are roaming our streets and living with us. They shouldn't be walking or breathing the same air as us, let alone being housed and paid for. We're paying for his house. He had a lovely house, When I looked at his house, I thought, what a lovely house in a lovely road. Not in a Muslim area, in a non-Muslim area, in a lovely road, paid for by us, all of us.
Okay.
These men are being housed across our country, and that is the problem. And it was refreshing listening to your last caller then. It's refreshing knowing that the British public are waking up to Islam. It's refreshing, and what he said, so many people talk about this argument of interpretation. We don't need an argument on interpretation. We need, and he's completely right. We need to look at Muhammad, and there's no other way you can interpret Muhammad beheading 600 people. That's just simple. You can't interpret it any other way. That's what he did. There's no way you can interpret the fact that he had sex with a 9-year-old child. That's it. It's black and white. He married a 6-year-old. There's no other way to interpret the fact that he tortured a man called Kanano and burned his chest to rob his gold. There's no interpretation on these facts. These are facts, and they're not facts on behalf of Tommy Robinson. These are facts from Islamic scripture, from the biography of Muhammad by Ibn Ishaq, which is the most recognised and renowned biography of that man's life in the world by Muslims all over the globe. Then that is the problem, and so many people, I see it now, I still hear it now. It's not all Muslims. No, well done. We know it's not all Muslims. Only an idiot thinks it's all Muslims. But the problem doesn't lie there. The problem lies in the teachings of Islam. The problem lies in that Didsbury Mosque. I watched this morning on This Morning with Holly Willoughby and whatever that bloke's name is, Philip
Schofield, yeah.
I watched as that they had a white Muslim convert on there, Lauren Booth, who said, I'm an extremist who's been terrorising her mosque for 3 days. Now, I have been to their mosque twice. Their mosque is the Didsbury Mosque where the suicide bomber Salman Abedi went. His father, who fought with Al-Qaeda in Libya, also went there. His brother teaches Arabic there. All the people saying Salman Abedi was not a Muslim, he could recite the Quran without looking at it. Now, the people saying it are like, well, I know some Muslims and they're really nice. Well, I bet they can't recite the Quran without looking at it. I bet they haven't fought jihad. I bet, and then I've gone into, she said I've terrorised their mosque. I've been to their mosque. You'll see this video released at 9 o'clock in the morning. I've attempted to speak to their imam. Their main imam was fighting jihad 4 years ago as well. He was out killing. He was out loading bombs for targets in Libya. Okay, these are all facts. Again, this is not me. I've gone through the speakers at that mosque. Some of the speakers, if you want to know why we've got Islamic ghettos, one of their main speakers says that if you see, and this is all going to come up in the video, that if you see non-Muslims walking down the street, you should make them cross on the other side of the road. Yeah, he says that he goes, never say salam to non-Muslims because never show them any respect. This is what's being preached, and other preachers have said, which you'll see in the video because I'm going to cut to the videos of their preachers saying kill homosexuals. Other preachers have said that if someone leaves Islam, they must be killed. But they're quite moderate on their view that if the lady who left Islam or the lady who commits adultery, if she's pregnant, let her have the baby first, then stone her. Yeah. Now what people need to understand is, I could do this for every single mosque in this country. This is not. Everyone will say this is an extremist mosque. No, it's not. This is a mosque that's promoting Islam. That's all it is. That's where we need to get to. We need to get to realising that. And at the minute, we need to realise we're in a war that's not going to go away. And it's only going to get worse. Now, I'm surprised. People, if they're surprised by these attacks, I'm just surprised it took so long. I've dug back through conversations I was having yesterday with a young lad whose mother was killed by ISIS. And I spoke to him nearly 3 years ago after his mum was killed. And he was saying, what's the future? I said, the future is this. The future is conflict and attack at every location in our country. Now, we have a duty, all of us have a duty, to prevent that and stop that in any way. And we're not. By hugging Muslims, do you know what our police force, sorry if I'm going on a rant, but it's just, our police force, Didsbury Mosque, this mosque that I'm going to absolutely expose at 9 o'clock in the morning on my video, yeah, they're linked. They're leaders of their mosque. The leader who sits on the Sharia tribunal for their mosque is also part of the Hamas umbrella. Yeah? Not just Hamas, but the Muslim Brotherhood as well. He was sitting in on pivotal meetings in 1993 for the formation of the Muslim Brotherhood in America. This is their leaders. One of their other leaders, who was the PR face, he was the PR face after the Manchester bombing. Yeah, go through his tweets, because I've done it, and you'll be seeing their tweets on the video. He is the most anti-Semitic man going. Now, this is the reality, and our police leaders are standing in that mosque cuddling them. That's the reality. That's where we're at.
Okay, but let's just move this for a second. I mean, I hear what you're doing there, but I, as regards what happens in the future, I can see a world where the establishment and the government don't do anything about this. I'm familiar with the contents of your book, so they don't do anything with this, and then the other version of events that you were talking about in your YouTube video starts to happen, which is paramilitary groups and people take the law into their own hands. Were that to happen, they would form around you, would they not?
They would form around me. No. So do you know how many phone calls I've received in the last 2 days from men I know across the whole of the country who are raging and screaming, okay, and wanting direction. Now, the reality, my direction the whole time through the EDL was we're peaceful, we're peaceful, we're peaceful. You don't attack innocent people. You don't. It's stupid. It's moronic. Yeah? I've got my finger on the pulse, and I'm attempting to warn the government of that. You need to learn from this. You need to. They have to start listening. They have to start implementing laws and actions that give men at home sitting thinking, okay, they're taking care of us. But the longer they just give us words, the more realistic it is that you're going to create monsters in this country. And that's not me. I don't want that. Every man that I spoke to, I had one man ringing up and crying, his eyes out, screaming, saying he wants to do something. These are all, we need to know what to do. What do we do? That's what everyone's sitting thinking. What can we do about this now? And the only thing I still can say is we have to implement pressure, awareness, and let people know and let the government know that the country's waking up. The country is waking up. People are waking up. People are fed up. And that same mosque, I'm talking about Didsbury Mosque, ITV, all the news channels pumped this big campaign where they said that they condemned the attack. After inciting murder against apostates, against Jews, against Christians, against everyone, they come out with some stupid insult to our intelligence and issue some statement saying they condemn it. I don't have to watch as we see a white convert on our morning breakfast show calling me an extremist because I've been up to there to question their imams who 4 years ago were killing people in Libya. That's the reality. That's where I'm at. I'm so frustrated. But I don't want to see a future of war and chaos. No one does, which is why we've been dedicating our lives to trying to prevent it.
Because, well, I don't know. I mean, I think you may be in a similar position to my head in that this idea of paramilitary groups, people taking the law into their own hands, I mean, that is the beginning of the end. Justice needs to be done and to be seen to be done. And it doesn't seem to be that that's what's happening at the moment. And then, like I say, you're saying that in your YouTube video. Now, you're saying you wouldn't take those routes, but I can see those paramilitary groups already on the fringes of forums and stuff like that. They seem like very serious people talking about getting together, like I say, guns and dealing with this problem themselves. It seems like a serious area of concern, to be honest.
I've been speaking with people from Northern Ireland for years and years and years, and they've all stressed to me and really, really drilled into me the last thing you want as a country and community is what we had. Yeah. The last thing you want. Okay, but that is where we're being led. We're being led down that path and failed miserably by everybody. Failed by everyone put in any position to protect us, whether that be protecting our daughters in social services, whether it be protecting our families, whether it be protecting any of us in general. They're all failing us. And that the only reaction to failure of government and failure of law, I'll give you another example. There was a young Sikh girl who was raped in the city of Leicester. She was gang raped by Muslim men. Okay. Now the family went to the police refused. They didn't do anything about it. Then 20 Sikh men went and seek retribution, and they attacked the businesses and they attacked the properties of the Muslim gang rapists. Then the police arrested the Muslim men. Then they also sent to prison the 20 Sikh men. Now those 20 Sikh men would not have had to go to prison. They would not have had to take the law in their own hands if the system done its job. But when the system fails, you push men into that, you push men down that path. That's what you'll get, and that's what that video is not a calling for that. That video is a warning to that. A warning that the system and the politicians and the police leaders need to hear the public's anger at this. And we're not a country that reacts. How many mosques have been blown up since these two terrorist attacks 2 weeks ago? None. This invisible Nazi bogeyman that the far left and the UAF and all these anti-fascist groups have created is not there. The real fascists are the people calling for homosexuals to be killed. The real fascists are the people calling for stoning of women. They are the real fascists, and they're preaching in every single mosque in this country.
Okay, the journalist Tommy Robinson there works with Rebel Media. I recommend you check his stuff out, known previously, formerly the leader of the EDL, which were a street protest movement. like I say, it's reserved. I have a lot of emotions going through my mind at the moment. I'm fascinated by what people have to say. I want you to be one of them. 020 38 29 1234 is my phone number. That's 020 38 29 1234. You're listening to the Jon Gaunt Show here on Talk to Me Radio, sponsored by sponsored by the Globemaster and brought to you by financialresolver.com. Let's squeeze one more call on before we go into the next podcast. Ron in Uxbridge. Ron, what do you want to tell us?
Yeah, hello there. Okay, I agree 100% with Tommy Robinson. There is a man who speaks sense and speaks for the country, because he is saying the things that the politicians will not say. And as regards paramilitaries on this street, it won't happen in my lifetime, but it's going to happen soon. I can assure you. I don't expect it's going to happen.
You see, I tell you why I'm thinking that, Ron. Let me tell you. There was an incident in Birmingham, not that widely known, where there were race riots and the black community and the Asian community were fighting in the streets. And it's a very complicated story, and I don't want to get too, bogged down in the detail because there's bits proved, bits not proved, if you see what I'm saying. But those race riots, when they erupted, I remember thinking at the time that these kinds of issues can easily escalate. And I really feel that in the air. Like I say, if you go on forums, you look at people on Twitter and stuff, particularly of a kind of more military mind, particularly ex-military, I do think some people are thinking of taking the law into their own hands, and that concerns me.
Without a doubt. And if these politicians don't wake up very, very soon, there's going to be massacres on these streets. And we don't want that. We don't want that. But what we want to be able to live safely in our own country. And we can't do that at the moment. Everybody is terrified. I've driven around today for my work. There's people looking at each other differently. There's a sense, there's something in the air today. What? I don't know. I don't know what it is. But I'm telling you now, there's something. And people have had enough. And there's 3,000 people on the watch list. Now, why? Why aren't these people in internment camps? Let's put them in internment camps. Let's check them out. And once they've been checked out, if they're going to be released from internment camp, let's put them on a tag so we know exactly where they are. These tags cost £13.50 a month, I think it is. The great British public will be willing to pay that out of their own pocket. There's going to be ructions in this country. I believe you me, it's going to kick off. And like Tommy Robinson said, the people of Ireland lived through that for years and years and years in the Troubles, and we don't want it. But unless the politicians put their foot down and stop this now, it's going to happen. And the likes of Theresa May, Corbyn, and all those lot will have blood on their hands. And it'll be the working class people, as it always is in all wars, who get slaughtered, who get cut down by gunfire. But it's becoming a little bit now like not a race war, but our children are being slaughtered.
Yep.
Our people are being maimed. And the great British people, whether they be white, black or indifferent, have had enough.
I hear you, Ron. I hear you loud and proud. And what do you make of this? It's tough talk for tough times, isn't it? That's what it is. 020 38 29 1234 is my phone number. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm conflicted, and I'm conflicted simply because, I don't know. I don't know what to say, This is a world in which I've been living in my mind for quite some time. I think I've spoken to you before when me and John were setting up this radio station. This was one of my concerns, that this was a problem that was going to get worse. It was going to get harder to talk about because it was going to be constant. And that's what's happening. And I've spent some time in this now the present, although it's been for a long time the future of this country. I've spent some time here in this wilderness, in this moment where people are seriously talking about internment camps. I've spent some time here, and I don't know what the right things to say are. And, I find no shame in admitting that to you, dear listener. There are plenty of people who know what to do. Let's get them on the air. They can talk. For now, I don't know. 020 38 29 1234 is the number. Load of calls on today. Let's squeeze some more on. We'll just do Colin in Essex. Colin, thanks for calling us. What you can tell us?
Hi, Nick. UK?
Yeah.
All right, mate. Couldn't the government pass a law that states that if any Islamist performs a terrorist act, then their whole immediate family would go to prison for 15 years? Would that not deter them?
Well, it should deter them, shouldn't it? But at the same time, the law is open to abuse. That's why I'm conflicted. I don't trust the government. That's the bottom line. And, with something like that, it could be abused, could it not?
Oh, I don't know, mate. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I mean, if they just put them straight in prison for 15 years, right? But they also had if they shot them, if they knew they was going to do it, and they shot them before they done it, then obviously that law wouldn't apply. But if they did cause a terrorist act and they ended up killing lots of people, then they should take the immediate family, stick them in prison for 15 years or whatnot, and then totally strip them from any benefits ever to be handed out from ever again. I think then the Muslim families will think twice about letting them go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying in that, you could kind of punish the families and then I understand that they have some sort of law like that in India, actually. Someone was speaking to me about that before. The difficulty that I have, though, is that our principles are going out the window a little bit here. I mean, you don't punish the family for I don't get punished for the sins of my brother or sister. That's just how we roll, isn't it? We don't do it like that. And but I take someone else's point. Hang on, Cal, let me just finish this thought as it grows in my mind, and I try and put it across to you. I'm reminded of was it a guest or a caller who said to me before, Nick, the game has changed. Your logic is old-fashioned. Throw it out the window. Maybe they're right, Colin. I don't know. But there's part of me that thinks that we should really hold on to our principles in these times of crisis. Those principles are things like, well, you don't punish that person for this person's crimes. We have.
They do that.
Well, we shouldn't. I don't know that we should do this, should we?
When there's black on black crime, and when someone gets killed and you're in that gang, you can get prosecuted too, just for being in the gang, whether you committed that murder or not.
JENGBA, joint enterprise laws. Yeah, but that's different. If you bring out a joint enterprise on a family that's had nothing to do with the terror attacks, just happens to be that Uncle Jamal was the one who sorted it out, then that's not really fair, is it? Because they've not necessarily been involved; they're just related.
Yeah, but it's tough measures, isn't it? Now?
I know. Yeah,
it's the only way.
That's why I'm entertaining the idea, Colin, and I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm just using what I can, what logical faculties I have to say, hang on, this feels wrong. Do you see, Colin? If we're punishing people for crimes they didn't commit, that to me just feels wrong intuitively as a British subject. Doesn't fit with me at all. But it's okay in your hands. That's what you're saying. It's a sword of justice.
I think so. I think it's the only way to deter them. Really, It's just. Them at their own kind of game, kind of thing. But.
All right. Well, okay, Colin. I'm not saying you're wrong. We'll put it on the list. I'm reminded of a quote by Nietzsche: "Beware ye when you fight dragons, lest ye become a dragon." Be careful what you throw out when you go into battle, when you fight monsters, else you might become a monster yourself. Is that a risk we should be seriously entertaining, or have the rules of the game changed? 020 38 29 1.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.